Hello everybody, I'm gnbryl, and this is, I believe, the third video in the series of perfect pitch for adults. Okay, so last time we covered that perfect pitch is more like a sense of touch. It's like basically reaching into a bag and picking out objects based on their shapes. You know, picking out a ball or a cylinder or a cube, you know, stuff like that. And there is even a better way to illustrate what it's like to hear with perfect pitch. Do you know what a stereograph is? It's a flat two-dimensional image that allows you to see a three-dimensional picture. It's like this. Take a look at this picture. It looks like a bunch of two-dimensional objects, but actually if you stare at it for about, 10 to 30 seconds, you can see a three-dimensional image. Try it now and pause the video if you have to. I used to do these as a kid, and I think it's a little difficult to see it on the screen, on your computer screen, but what you can do is you can find your reflection in the screen, kind of like behind the image. You can find your reflection and just stare at that and kind of notice the image, and you will start seeing that it's all of a sudden transforms itself into a three-dimensional image. Can you see the fish and the turtle at the bottom? Okay, so perfect pitch is a lot like this. The surface of your screen is like, that's the music, that's the relationships. So it's a different focus. You focus past the surface of the relationships. And when I say that perfect pitch is kind of three-dimensional, kind of like in the visual field, like we did the illustration just now, I mean it, quite literally. Like, take a look at this other picture. I have an example here of how we hear without perfect pitch. I have the C major chord, as you can see, and it enters your ear and kind of stays there. It doesn't go too deeply past the ear, and it kind of stays together. But now take a look at this other picture. As you can see, the notes penetrate much deeper into the brain, and also they're spatially separated. And this is exactly how it feels when you hear with perfect pitch. You hear the tones spatially separated inside your head, and you also feel like they are kind of poking different sections of your brain, and they kind of have different tips. They have different shapes at their tip. They poke you with a pointed tip, or a dull tip, or a rounded tip, or a square tip, maybe kind of like that. And they hit a slightly different portion of your brain. That's kind of how it feels. Now, the reason this is important is because you may have heard that to listen for perfect pitch, you kind of have to listen deep into the tones and like deep, deep, deep. Well, it's actually quite the opposite. You notice the tones penetrating deeply into your mind. And the reason this is significant is because it means that your focus should be actually inside your head, inside your mind. The sensations that allow you to identify the notes all happen inside your brain. And so your focus is inside your head. Your attention can be elsewhere. You can be reading a book, or you can be like looking out far, far out the window. That's actually very helpful. But just like with, you notice stuff with your peripheral vision, regardless of where your attention is, you kind of notice literally in the back of your mind that the tones are penetrating deeply. They kind of poke you in separate spots in your brain, and the notes feel spatially separated. Okay, how are we doing on our three-note chords? Let's say you play something like this. And it happens to be E flat, B, and F sharp. E flat, B, and F sharp. What you do is you Oh, you actually play the notes and then you sing them. Na na na. And then you look and see what the notes are. You can see that it's E flat, B, and F sharp. And what you do is you just play the same notes in a different octave, like this, for instance. And you listen and reinforce that sound. And you can kind of play them again. And then you can play them over here too. Like, and you listen to them again. You don't really have to sing them, I don't think, again, because you already know what they are. And then you go to the next chord like that. So you keep practicing like that, and the overall objective here is to notice that the notes begin to penetrate your mind deeper, just like I showed in that picture. And also they feel more spatially separated inside your head, kind of like in the picture as well. So that's kind of the general direction that you should be moving in. And this is much more important than any exercise where you just, play a note and identify the note, F sharp, or, you just play a bunch of notes like this, G. That's a very small portion of perfect pitch training. And we will cover that in more detail in one of the later videos. So for now, go ahead and keep practicing. Good luck, and I will see you on the next installment.